Welcome, everyone. Today we have Kathy Patton with us. She's a seasoned creative marketing unicorn with 20 plus years, so 2 decades leading top tier creative teams across gaming, entertainment, and tech. She's known for pioneering, UA frameworks and delivering standout campaigns for brands like Big Fish Games, Pocket Gems, Johnson& and Johnson, Disney, and Universal. We're excited to have her bring her strategic insight and creative energy to the community. And towards that, our little contribution today is when she's done with the talk, I'm requesting everyone to do this framing thing for a picture. So don't kill me for it. We need our LinkedIn virality. And with that, Kathy, it's all yours.
Amazing. Let me share my screen. Okay. So you already gave me such a lovely introduction that I'm going to skip this one and we'll just go straight into, is AI taking over the world? And the answer is no, it's not. But it is doing some
Sorry,
pretty
I
large.
have to interrupt. That was the best first cover picture I've seen yet.
Oh, this one?
This you win.
Wait till you see my last screen.
Okay.
Now you'll all be paying attention until my last screen. So, okay. So AI is definitely not taking over the world, but I do want to start by giving you guys just a little grounding by showing you a couple of very alarming numbers before we really get into it. As of a study that was done last month, AI generated content is more than half of what is on the internet. And if you think about what that means that it has taken AI less than 3 years to create half of what it took us humans 30 years to make. And that is absolutely alarming. And what some people are actually saying is that by early next year, which is only like a month and a half from now, that number is going to hit 90%. So that's insane. But the good news there is that a lot of that content is not indexed. So it's not necessarily feeding into the internet. It's just that we're creating all of that. And a lot of that is because of things like ad generation and things that we're going to be talking about today. That's what's creating it. So that does sound like it's taking over, but take a pause for a second. Remember back in 2000, the big shiny new technology was the internet, and everything had a website, and every website was ridiculous, and we had all these things that made no sense, and none of them could be monetized, and it was just really weird. We just had so many of them, and we all thought that the World Wide Web is going to take over the world. And then in 2009, we had smartphones, and everything had to be an app, and we thought that smartphones were going to take over the world, and we made apps to flush your toilet, and we made all these crazy apps that none of them monetized, and they were really, really weird. And that was the brand new shiny object. This is AI is the next brand new shiny object. We will figure it out. So those two things leveled out. We figured out how to use them. We made smart content. We added the user experience, career path. We did these things. The same thing's going to happen with AI. And within the next 5 years, there will be actual jobs and careers that are built solely to work on just AI. We just don't even have those yet. So that just to ground you guys. So where we're at right now is we're seeing what we're calling model collapse. This has been happening for the last, 6 to 8 months. And it's basically because AI has been building at such a large rate and learning from itself. So if you have AI build all your ads and then you use AI to analyze all your ads and you keep repeating that process, you're degenerating what you're actually making and the quality is going down. So all of the information online could get really bad, but how can we actually fix this? This is not hard to do. We just have to add humans back into the thinking. We're humans and we're speaking to humans, and AI is not making an ad to get AI to download your app or your game or buy your product. We want humans to do that. So we need to remember that we need to, add ourselves into the process and not eliminate ourselves. And humans are much smarter than we give ourselves credit for. How many of you guys actually know the difference between a real image and an AI generated one? You all do. And every single one of us does. And that's because human beings have something that a machine never will, and that is instinct and gut. And a machine never will. So it's important that we remember that when we're creating the content that AI is going to test. AI should never be making our creative, it should be iterating on it. So what does that mean? It means AI is a learning tool, and it should be used as a learning tool for us to learn from. It's not the replacement for your creative team or your creative generators, your creative directors and your art directors. They need to come up with the ideas. And AI can be used to create very high volumes and, feed you data that you're going to learn very quickly. AI can only work with what it has. So if we continue down the path that we are on right now with model collabs, eventually we're going to get to a point where every brand that is similar and has a similar campaign that asks AI to make it, AI kind of knows what worked with, the performers, and all the ads are going to look like this, and we're all going to start to have this. And this is an exaggeration, but it's not far off. So it can only work with what it has, and it has numbers and machines. It's also not always going to know your brand the way that you do. So as a brand steer, this is a great example for Skechers. The shoe is in the ad. Sure, it's in the lower left-hand corner and it's describing that it's available for men and women. But if you really pay attention to this ad, there's two women in this ad and they're both wearing high heels. And Skechers doesn't make high heels. And even if this was made by giving AI the brand guidelines and saying, hey, stay within our guidelines. There's probably nothing written in the guidelines that says, please don't use high heels or high heels are not there, because that's something we all instinctually know. The people that work at Skechers know that high heels aren't there, but AI would never know that. They probably, AI knows that two women perform in an ad and dresses them like women, and they might have been prompted that they wanted a high end, or two shopping women. And so it works with what it has. It's also famously bad at getting things wrong and just being a little bit off. These are three strong examples. There's thousands of them. There's websites dedicated to showing you these things. It is getting better at this, but it is still not great. And this is one of the reasons you can really tell the difference between AI generated things and an original thing. So how does that mean? Like, what does it mean to use AI and get high volume and use it as a learning tool? Well, a traditional ad cam or AI or traditional ad strategy would use 40 to 60 unique creative ads for testing per month. And not 44, that would be depending on your industry. Some industries really can't do more than four. Gaming, we could do 60 per title per month easily. So it really depends on your industry, but that's about what's humanly possible. And this is dependent on time, budget, and manpower. But with AI, you can actually increase that number to be 50 to 200 or more, even to 1,000 per week. So that volume is massive, and you can do it at a tenth the cost of what it would cost in traditional ad strategy. So that might make you say, hey, I'm going to use AI to make all my ads. My costs are going to go way, way down, and I'm no longer going to have to, spend this, I can spend it all on the actual ad spend instead of the creation. But you got to remember, by everything that I said, we have to own the thinking, and we have the gut instinct, and we know our audience better than AI can. AI works with numbers and testing and data. It's a machine. So, but a human being can't make 1,000 ads. Obviously, we can't. But that's why we need to make these two strategies work together. It's important to have a traditional creative ad strategy and an AI strategy that complement each other. AI should not replace it. And so it's very important to take the time to figure out how your AI strategy is going to support your creative strategy. AI is going to produce massive amounts of ad data, huge amounts. But it's very important to remember that too much of a good thing can be bad. If you end up reviewing 500 ad data sets and everything failed, you're not going to learn anything at all. So that's kind of a waste of time. But if you take the time to add humans back in and remember that those two strategies need to work together, you can actually learn a lot from AI that AI could never tell you. I like to take the top 10% of an AI performance test and get rid of the bottom 90% and review those, as a team. A really good example of why that will work is if you have one of the things that you're optimizing for is character, let's say, and you want to figure out which characters resonate best with your audience, and you use an original ad that worked really well and you test it with a bunch of characters. AI might be able to come back and say, you have 5 characters in 5 different ads, and AI comes back and it says, well, this one won and it's the winner for sure, and the other characters don't work. Well, that might be right, but if you actually review it visually, you actually review the ads as a human being, you could possibly see that the character that won was facing to the left and all the rest were facing to the right. AI didn't notice that, but you can notice that and go, wait, potentially it's not the character, it's the way it's facing. And so it's important to take that. You can then do an entire string of tests on that. You can test each one of those characters facing the left and facing the right and do an entirely different test. You can also find out if left or right is the way to go for your characters. Um, a lot of people say, I don't have access to making 1,000 ads. And of course you don't. Nobody does. That's insane. And who would actually build an entire AI team in-house to learn how the AI machine works and figure all of that out? Nobody would do that. And they shouldn't, because there's actually a ton of agencies specializing specifically in this testing strategy. The Go to an agency. This is the way to do it. They're not expensive. They're pretty cheap. The ones above the line are ones I've worked with extensively, and the ones below the line are also very, very big. I know very, very well. There's new ones coming out every single day. This is going to be a really big career path for a lot of people. It's going to be a really big place. It's, there's a lot of them. And the reason is because you can learn so much so fast and for such a cheap amount of money. Another big question I get all the time or comment is legal is not going to let me use they're not going to let me use AI. And this was standard for a very long time. Many businesses said absolutely not, no AI, but it's changing and it's changing quickly. A lot of that is because legal's biggest priority is the IP of your company. The intellectual property is everything that a company has, and legal doesn't want to mess with that. So they've always they also don't know AI as well as the rest of us. So their stance has always been if we put things into the AI metrics, everyone can use it and we're going to get, they're going to steal all of our property. The fact is that's not true anymore. You can do it in a closed circuit library. And by using a closed circuit library, you feed into the AI that you're using exactly what it can use, and it can't use anything outside that. And it's very safe. No one else can actually even get into that library either. So everything is very, very safe. It's almost like working within your own company cloud. Well, it is working within your own company cloud. And if by doing this, legal is far more likely to feel like this is low risk and they can do it. The other advantage here is that everything that you put in that closed circuit was pre-approved by legal. So they don't necessarily have to review everything, which is another thing that they're like, I can't approve 1,000 ads. They don't need to. They already approved everything before it used it. So most likely everyone is using closed circuits already. And this is a really good way to show what I mean by that. Businesses like to, Microsoft, a lot of them use Microsoft or they use Google for everything that they do. And both of these systems have both a closed circuit library as well as open AI within the business. So you can do a closed circuit where you search for everything within the business, every folder, every research, everything that's there. But you can also do, almost like Chat GPT, where you search everything on the internet, and they're very separate. Closed circuit is completely safe and secure, and it's, this is how, what I'm talking about for closed circuit. So how does that, like, what does that mean? Like, Kathy, start talking about how to actually make a strategy. Okay, I'm talking about it. So I put every digital ad creative strategy into 3 different categories: pitch, play, and plunge. Pitch is where all of your UA ads live. This is the highest volume ads that you're going to make. They're all tied to a very, very strict set of ROI metrics that they need to perform to. It's very, very quick ad, volume that you're going to be making, and it's the foundation of where all of your numbers come from. Play is where you start to add in a little bit of brand. You start to see storytelling in here. You start to see playables coming in here, things like that. You play around in here. You experiment. You're going to see a lot of failure in here as well. But that's where you test. Plunge is all brand. It's where brand awareness campaigns come from, the traditional campaigns, all of that, the big stories that you're telling, all of those really big campaigns are in Plunge. And that's just to build a stronger brand. There's usually not an ROI metric tied to these because it's very hard to do that. So, it's mainly just brand awareness. So for purposes of what we're talking about today, AI high volume testing is really just reserved for pitch and play. In pitch and play, you can actually do all of this high volume iteration and you're going to get data back from it. Plunge, it's really not going to work because there's really not a number tied to it. So how do you start that? You start with a strategy, like I already said. You want to build a strategy that's going to complement the one that you already have and support it and work with it so that one's feeding into the other and vice versa. It should be additive to the strategy that you already have. You're already building creatives, you're already learning and testing. Take what's working and iterate on it using AI and learn that way. Um, make sure that you write a strategy specifically for AI. A lot of companies very early on jumped into AI and said, we need AI, we need AI. And they just started building stuff and making stuff. And they had really no idea how or what they were doing with it. And there was no real strategy for it. And the performance didn't really work because they just started throwing everything on the internet. So here's a little bit of an example of a timeline on how that would work. You start with a baseline that you give to AI. This baseline needs to come from your existing creative strategy. I have never had AI make original creative content. I've never had it make any original ideas. It always comes from a baseline ad that we've already tested and that has already won in performance and had strong ROI numbers. The idea here is that you iterate from it and you learn even more. You optimize what you've already got. Then you throw that into AI iterations. You can go round after round after round. You can, change the characters, the colors, the call to action, the language, music. You can change it. Go nuts. Go absolutely crazy. You can do it all in a month, which would normally take 18 months to get a creative team to actually have the time to optimize and do all of that. And you can learn a lot. You then analyze those results, like I said, looking at the top 10%, but also looking at all the numbers that AI is giving you because they give very valuable information too. Review all of that, feed it back in to your regular creative team, and use that information to continue making creative ideas. Both need to work in together. So that's why I say they complement each other. They're not exclusive. Here's an example. This is my last slide, guys, except for the one that I wanted to show that I told you to wait for. This is an example of how their testing strategies work together. So for a standard creative test, it can take 6, sometimes 8 to 10 weeks to actually work on because you've got to come up with the idea, build the idea, and then test the idea. And it can take a really long time. But AI can be done in 1 week. So what I like to do is keep my regular traditional testing. You learn a lot from there and you make really great, best in class, high quality stuff. Throw in AI testing, every week from the previous week before, or the previous test before the winner and iterate and learn. And then throw those into the next week and iterate and learn. So it should be a compliment and you can get so much more. This timeline right here is an extremely aggressive example. Not every business and every game can handle this. This is something that would be, I would look at this from a gaming perspective for a game that's very close to launch, not necessarily even launched, maybe just after launch and certainly not in, pre-production. Um, but yeah, and then this is my last slide. This is my dog. And wanted to see if anyone has any questions.
Oh, I mean, he's got the look where I just lose all my questions, right? So I think we have questions. Okay, could you stop sharing screen, please?
Of
Uh,
course.
if we could all take a picture. Yes, we're being a little cheesy, but how do you frame again? Yes, there we go. Come on, Ian, Mark, help me out here, man. Amna, okay, ready? Three, two, and one. Amna, have
I'm
you taken the picture? Okay,
like,
thank you so much for taking the picture. Thank you so much. I do have a question, but I'm happy to go last. If someone wants to go first. No, I guess I'm it then. Um, so this may be a really silly question. You said pick the top 10 performing
Mhm.
ads and have a human look at them. And then you even said that, legal has already pre-approved these. Like, uh, are we like by default just testing 1,000 ads without looking at them
No,
in that model? How is it like?
no,
How are you getting the
definitely not.
performance metrics?
So before you actually start testing it with AI, you need to know what your performance metrics are. Like, what are you actually looking for as the metric, and feed that into AI as well. Um, that's really
Okay.
important.
So
Then
you're
when you
getting AI
decide,
to evaluate the AI built ads across some metrics that you have designed. But wouldn't you feed them to it to design the ad in the first place? Sorry.
so no, no, no. So the way that that would work, let's say you have one winning ad, ad A. You feed it into AI and you tell it we want it in 10 languages, or we want to
Ah,
test it with these 5 characters. And
okay.
like maybe the ad A had a strong character with a strong call to action as, the ad. You say, I want to replace that with these 10 characters. Try all of them. So you do that. AI spits that out in no time at all. It would take us weeks to do that as human beings, but it can do it really quickly. So you tell AI to do that. And it generates all the ads in all the
So the
sizes.
starting point is already some ad winners that you have from the
Correct.
traditional process in the
I
past, or
always start
whatever you
with
have.
something that won, that you had, like, that has already performed. That, because it's
Understood.
important that you know already that your audience resonated with it. If you have AI create it, it's going to create the Skechers ad. Like,
Uh,
no one's going to click on that because
and,
there's no point.
or they all may click on it, thinking like, "What's wrong with sketches?" But
Yeah,
you're right. I'm
but
kidding.
you're not learning
Um,
anything because it's not your brand. It's off. You
yeah.
can't use any of that information. You want something that you're actually going to learn from. So you start with something that you know. Then you give it information about what you want to learn. So I want to learn which song might work best, or I want to learn which character is the strongest in my ad campaigns, or test calls to action, test languages. Like, sometimes international companies need to translate into different languages, and sometimes they don't. Sometimes English works best, and so maybe you want to test that. See, like, translate it to 17 languages. I'm going to test them all and see if it performed better or worse than the English one. That can sometimes work. Then it spits out all of the ads that you need to generate. It can do it so quickly and for almost nothing. And then it tests it, then it puts it in a test. Most of those agencies I showed you can do soup to nuts from the beginning to the end. They do the testing themselves. They do it in-house because they have a system that does the testing for AI. Then what happens? So then they test it. What happens is they give you back performance numbers. And a lot of times they will have narrowed it down to just the outliers, the top and the bottom performance numbers of what happened, because literally nobody can analyze 1,000 ads. It's just not possible. But if you do, and when I say 1,000 ads, that's not going to necessarily be 1,000 different creatives. That's all the sizes, all the languages. So
Understood. Understood.
it's
It's
not going to be a
variations
thousand.
of that. One quick
But
follow-up. So
yeah,
sorry.
you
Yeah, I was
go.
just gonna say, in terms of like the platforms, I know there was like there's a bottleneck on every platform requires for the ad to live for some time before we can get some
Mhm.
data on it.
Mhm.
Uh, have you heard of anything that is helping speed that part up? Because
So yes, and this is changing, and it's changing very quickly. It's important to know where you're testing. All the testing that I've done is usually through Meta and Google, because those are the two places to test. I also, in gaming, we test in
TikTok,
third world countries, or like small markets, because
same
you don't want
platforms,
to,
different markets.
yeah.
Okay.
That's where we do most of our testing. I've never tested on TikTok, but TikTok is a very different place. So we will make ads, and then the way that you test for TikTok is you kind of you know a lot about TikTok. I know the people over there very well. We know kind of what works and what doesn't. So we then iterate for TikTok, and then look and see what our numbers are, and it's just kind of a different beast. But yeah, AppLovin, they're all different, ad platforms, and you can't really test for each individual platform. You kind of have to learn what's working in Facebook and Google, in Meta and Google, and then once you have performers, you then post them live.
Okay.
So a winning test does not mean it's going to perform live, and that happens all the time. So sometimes, you'll get something that did really well in testing, and then live it's like, no.
And
Or
what's
on
your
some
personal
platforms it does.
baseline for last question, I promise.
Yeah,
What's your
yeah, yeah.
personal baseline minimum time requirement for
For
testing
a
an ad?
good baseline,
Yeah.
it depends. Well, for testing, a week.
At least 1 week.
Yeah.
And okay,
For
okay.
for testing
I'm
purposes, it
fresh
would be
out of
1 week.
questions, everyone, so I can literally give you the mic if someone
I
else
just
wants.
have one, Katie. So sorry I joined late and this might have
That's
already
okay.
been answered. But is there any particular model that you rely on or lean on?
I have built specific models for every product that I've used. I actually don't think that there is a generic model that works. I think that anyone that thinks that there is just gonna end up, I don't think that that's the case. You need one that's going to work for the business, the users that you're actually trying to speak to, the industry. It's just you can't, the product itself. For each game that I've ever worked with, um, for each game, every title has its own specific creative strategy for the internal creative strategy as well as the AI creative strategy. They can be very similar, but every single one has differences. I mean, each game and each product itself could have different ROI success metrics that they're adhering to. So you can't really have one model.
I guess we're time is on, like it's time as well. If anyone else has any question, then we can take one perhaps. Otherwise, we can call it a wrap.
I do actually have a question, just out of curiosity. When we talk about the scale of that's possible with AI, my mind also goes towards like workflow automation, and how you actually connect all the various pieces together. I'm wondering if you have any kind of comments or insights around that.
For workflow automation?
Yeah.
That's a great question. That's a tough one to answer because it's changing so quickly. So I think that one of the things that we've been able to do, or that I've been able to do as a, creative marketing lead, is I've noticed that workflow has changed so much just even in the last year. You can get things done so much faster and um, just so much cheaper when it comes to AI, that a lot of times you can use that to help produce some of the original ads that you're making. It's different than what I'm talking about with AI optimization and AI testing, but you can use AI in these other ways by, having AI generate some characters that you're going to be putting in the ad, or for gameplay, let's say, these kinds of things. They can speed up things as well, or have it build out a whole bunch of, assets that you're going to use in your ad, and that can speed up things too. It has to be done with care because you do need an art director and a creative director to be reviewing everything to make sure that it's part of the brand guidelines and it's all of that, but it can speed things up. So I'm all for it as long as it's being reviewed. Did that answer your question?
Oh, actually, I think you're thinking about it from I guess an earlier part of the process. I was actually just thinking about, like, you're generating thousands of ads that you then
Oh,
want to
okay.
test. You then want to test, like, well, how do you, I mean, unless you've got some poor sucker who's there just like constantly, like, manually dragging up all your images, or So I'm just kind of curious, like, that part, like
Oh, the actual testing, like taking
yeah,
1,000
the
ads?
automation around, well, basically around uploading creatives and gathering data and, I guess, processing back into the model, et cetera. Like, so, what your thoughts are around kind of that workflow and automating that piece of it.
So when it comes to the actual ad generation, AI ad generation, and making 1,000 ads and then testing 1,000 ads, a lot of that is automated within the agency that you hire. So if the agency is going to
I
create
see.
1,000 ads, it automatically goes into the ad testing circuit that it's going to do. All of them have built their own little algorithms to do that. So there's no human being that's sitting there uploading 1,000 ads.
Okay,
And
okay, so
then,
that's the advantage of the providers that you kind of listed
yeah,
earlier, that they kind of they take care of all of that.
yeah. Yeah, I can't stress it enough that trying to do AI high volume ad generation in-house is just not feasible. It's just not something that anyone can really do in-house. There's so many things that the agencies have built. They also have automated data tools that are going to pull that data and, put it into templates and tools that make sense for us human beings. So it's just not something that we should be doing. And it's cheap. It's not expensive, to get it done. And it would cost way more for a company to try to build that
Yeah.
in-house.
Okay, thank you.
Welcome.
I one question. Have you used any tools for simulating audience response for an AI? So I actually, yeah, I can generate I know who my audience are. I know who I'm trying to sell to. Yeah, using AI as an audience member.
I'm not sure that I have. It's interesting though. I don't know that I have ever done that.
Okay, so you're using it as you're using the AI to generate art, but you're also using an AI to participate as an audience member. And then sometimes generate personalities within those audience members. So I can generate 1,000 personalities in AI and go, well, this is a sample of my audience. Test my AI generated ads against my AI audience.
I would, yeah. I mean, I'm sure that we've ever done that. It's possible that I have, but my team has done that, but I don't actually think we have. I'd be interested to check that out and to see what it's like. I would.
Yeah.
My only concern about it, and it may not be worth it, would be that, again, AI is learning from AI, and where is it getting its information about your audience?
Each human is training their own digital twin of sorts. We actually have a talk in another community around that. So eventually you could have, like, I could train a digital twin to consume ads and make me money, just behave like me.
Yeah.
For ads, and then pass on the information. But I feel it's in the future, Mark. I don't know, but I'll let Kathy.
Yeah, I feel there. I've done some testing, like there's simulated response stuff that's there. Particularly when you're designing, interactive ads, like particularly video, like where do I see my eye drawn to, all those kind of fun things. It's quite easy to simulate that in an AI response, so I can test those video ads quickly.
I would say, as a complement to your other testing, why not? I think it's a great idea.
I don't. It's not going to remove your actual consumer testing, but it may well get you down to a smaller amount of ads to test in the consumer group.
I think it's, I again, like anything where AI is being used as a learning tool, that's what it should be. So if you're creating audiences and a user, an actual user, and testing it that way, why not? And then you're going to learn something, and then you can take that back and test, original creative with it.
Cool. Right. Okay. I've got a new company idea now, so I'm going to go off and build something.
Keep me posted. I want to hear about
exactly.
Yeah, keep us all posted in this.
Exactly.
Everyone, thank you so much. Kathy, once again, thank you so much.
Thank you guys so much.
Thank you. It was lovely.
See you in the next one. Bye-bye. Have a great one, everyone.
Bye.